Should have hit record before that one. Well, that just ruined all the good humor for the night.
Yep. We just lost it. It's all gone. It's
Yeah.
all gone.
You know what's funny though is John Heyman and saying that the Giants had signed Aaron Judge. No, Arson Judge.
Arson Judge.
Yeah, it was Arson Judge.
Arson Judge, and then some of the players got on him because they were like, "Damn it, you got us excited." And now it looks like he's going back to the Yankees.
Well, that was one thing. Danielle and I talked about that one. I mean, you, Bob, as well as I do, if the old man Steinbrenner was still alive, Aaron Judge would be locked up to like a $1.5 billion contract by now.
Yeah. There would be people wouldn't be talking about the Phillies spending spree. It would be, how many billions of dollars over the salary cap or the tax threshold are the Yankees.
Aaron Judge's contract exceeds all small market teams' whole entire payrolls.
Aaron Judge makes more than some third world countries.
I mean, it's to me, it's almost asinine to not see him out of New York, but Danielle, you mentioned this to me though. I mean, it kind of does make sense for him to end up in the Bay Area because that's kind of where he's from. So I don't know.
Be kind of like Mr. Trout coming home.
Yeah, which I guess we get to see him at Eagles games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I also I said this with the Astros when we were playing the Astros and everybody was like, well, Jalen Hurts is an Astros fan. And it's like, you can play for a team and not root for the rest of the city's teams. There's no contract that says that you have to support the other teams,
Oh no, that's not in every Philadelphia Eagles contract. It says you have to now support all the Philly teams.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, no. And as
I was going to say when.
As we break,
I guess they're going to get Jalen Hurts on a breach of contract. Then I guess.
Yep. Just trade him.
I'll do a little breaking news here. Supposedly the Phillies are now close to signing another pitcher. No one of note, just a reliever named Matt Strahm. So that's your replacement for David Robertson or whoever else, one of those guys that Brad Hand. I don't know.
All right, you're familiar.
So stop.
With the Heyman thing, I told Tom this earlier. I just felt like in my head it was playing out the scene from Eurotrip when they accidentally catch the Pope's hat on fire and then send it up the thing and the Pope's like, what the hell? That's how I pictured Aaron Judge sitting there what?
Arson Judge.
Yeah, I didn't know. Aaron Judge, because Arson Judge may have signed.
Arson Judge did sign a contract.
Yes, I mean, I saw it on Twitter, so it's true.
Aaron Judge didn't.
Yes. But that scene of that movie was running through my head where it's like, no, I didn't. I'm not dead.
Be a lot cooler if it was if it was Paul Heyman making these announcements. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. And I am the representative for Aaron Judge.
What's funny is that I've always made that association in my brain between the two of them.
Well, Bob, you remember this? Wasn't John Heyman also the name of a real famous announcer? He used to do games with, who am I thinking of? John Miller. Is it John Miller and Joe Morgan?
Yeah.
Old ESPN broadcast. Okay, for some reason I get John Miller and I think John Heyman. I have no idea why. Maybe because John Heyman to me has, I don't know. I've always thought he had a thing for San Francisco Giants. Always did. He always to me thought to break news for them.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. I don't know.
No, I think you're right.
But now, so we recorded a way too early, right as the World Series ended. What can the Phillies do this off season? And our hopes were that they would sign one of the major 4 shortstops. Check that one off the list, and we got the one that we wanted, or at least the one I wanted.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to.
And it just, to me, it's a better fit for the team overall. He's friends with Harper, his experience playing with him, and others, especially the hitting coach and Kevin Long. There's just other experience there for him that's going to be a nice fit. Plus, it was a position the Phillies needed. The Didi Gregorius experiment didn't work after the 2-year contract. He was let go. Bryson Stott comes in and does a decent job as a rookie. But it was time to upgrade and move Stott over. We got Trey Turner for a long time and a lot of money.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, in the lead up, I kept on seeing, and I kept on, my own words kept echoing in my head. We're not going to get Trey Turner. We're going to get Dansby. And fucking, it kept on ringing in my head, and then I saw that, the Phillies are the hot team after Dansby. And I'm like, oh, come on, no, we can't sign a fucking guy named Dansby.
I was afraid that they were going to go after the guy from the Astros, and
Korea?
It was kind of like, yeah, I can never pronounce his last name right because I want to say it like Korea, like the country.
Yeah,
it's close enough.
Yeah, Korea.
But I'm like, after all the like shit talking I did about them being cheaters, I was like, they can't sign the Astros guy. They just can't. They can't. I can't root for him.
Yeah, that one would have been a tough pill to swallow. But I'm glad they got Turner, and they got the guy that you wanted as a pitcher, like literally before we came on.
Yeah, it was crazy. When we were recording our early mix too, the early picks, trying to figure out who they signed, knowing very well that they were going to dump a lot of money into one of the big 4 shortstops. We kind of knew that, like, going after the top pitchers, just, we were talked about it, but look, at the end of the day, I had my mind more set on Jameson Taillon or Taijuan Walker.
Right.
Go figure. I figured either one of those guys was more realistic for the money.
Right. And we also, one of the other things that we talked about, and it's something that apparently WIP was talking about today, there's word going around that the Phillies are on the verge. Now, again, take this with a grain of salt. This is what WIP was saying. Phillies are on the verge of re-signing Gene Segura to play third base, moving Alec Boehm to first base, and trading Rhys Hoskins.
Not Ross.
Yeah, Ross Hoskins.
Yeah, not Ross. Ross, poor Ross.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm torn on this one, mainly because, and I've mentioned this in text to you, I don't know his value outside of the Phillies organization.
Right.
He slots in very well in that lineup. He has the moxie for a Phillies lineup. I mean, I think the bat throw during the Atlanta game was enough for me. And I always liked the slow walk home run he hit against the Mets a couple of years ago. That just, I don't know. I love the guy. I think he's Philly through and through. The problem is he can't field a lick at first base, and that really showed up in the playoffs. And at some point it's going to bite us. And Bob, you've mentioned it to me many times over the course of the last month or so. But they're so heavy on players that could DH, and Harper and Castellanos and Schwarber, and even slapping JT out there to give him a reprieve from behind the plate. Where do you put him? I mean, there's no spot for him. And that'll get into our second half of our talk here. But Danielle, what do you think about potentially re-signing Segura and, well, bye-bye Ross?
I like Segura, but I also like Ross, and I think that, I think part of that is a huge part of that is his personality, and just how much it's a specific type of attitude to be a well-liked person in Philadelphia. And I think that like him and his family, like the fact that his wife was out there buying beers for everybody, like every postseason game. Like, I just think that that's like the attitude that I think I would miss if they do get rid of him. But it was painful watching him field.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like, we're not sitting here clamoring for them to get rid of him, like, at all. He, by all counts, he's well liked and well respected in the locker room. He seems like he's a great clubhouse guy. You know, he and his family get it, which not a lot of, you know, it does take a special kind of athlete to play in Philly because the crowd is what the crowd is. And when we're with you all the way to the end, no matter what. But if you do something we're not a fan of, if you don't, I mean, I think the only person to really kind of get around that was Jimmy, because Jimmy Rollins famously, quite a few times throughout his career, didn't run out fly balls. You know, he I don't want to say he showed lack of effort because he didn't. He played his heart out on the field, but there were just certain plays where, you know, when you're in Little League, you're taught from a young age, you run out every ball. And that's the mentality that Philly sports fans have. We have the mentality of you need to be doing what we would do if we were in your position. You know, playing with your entire heart, running every ball out, running through people, doing this, doing it, like the way we expect players to play. And not a lot of players can stand up to that.
No, it's the Aaron Rowan mentality.
Right.
Run through the wall.
For who? For my teammates. For what? To win the game. Aaron Rowan, after he ran into the wall, broke his nose, made the catch, and won the, helped save the game.
Mm-hmm.
Famously echoing, or mirroring, I should say, Ricky Waters when he short-armed a pass against the Seattle Seahawks. And when they asked him after the game why he didn't try to catch the ball, he said, for who? For what? So it's kind of like the mirror image of that.
Right. And my whole thing with Rhys Hoskins, and I mean that I don't know his value, is that now, especially that the Phillies have signed Taijuan Walker, now you kind of have a feeling of, okay, the rotation's set. So you've got Wheeler, Nola, Taijuan, Ranger Suarez, and then I would imagine some combination of a rookie, Bailey Falter, Griff McGarry, Andrew Painter, Mick Abel, somebody that's a really young or a rookie in the fifth spot. At some point, they've got to throw somebody out there to give him a shot. So I don't think they're going to use Rhys as trade bait for a starting pitcher. Now, I could possibly see him going for a good reliever. That's, I think, at this point, and I never really thought about that. I always thought that he was worth enough to land a starter, but maybe a 3, 4, or 5. I never thought that I thought that he was better than a reliever, but I guess it depends on which reliever. I don't know. Maybe there's a team that's looking for some power. Otherwise, I don't know what other position you could possibly trade one at this point, other than I would, like I've said several times, center fielder, mainly because I love Brandon Marsh. I just don't know that he's fit to be our everyday center fielder.
Right. Well, hey, let's go get one of the Japanese guys I've been talking about, man. There's a couple of them out there that wouldn't look too bad in the pinstripes.
Oh, yeah. I want the guy that's obsessed with Bryce Turner. Not Bryce Turner. Bryce Harper.
Bryce Turner.
Yeah, Bryce Turner. Right there with Ross.
Bryce Hooper. Bruce Hooper. Bruce Hooper
and Ross Hoskins.
And Ross Hoskins, Bruce Hooper, and I don't know. What is Trey? I don't even know what that would be.
Quattro.
There you go.
I saw somebody butchered his first name.
Trier.
I can't remember, but it was something on Twitter. Somebody butchered his first name already.
Oh, dude. Well, that's a Philly thing. like who was it? Joe Girardi. They were taking bets as soon as the Phillies signed him. They were like, all right, who's gonna be the first one to call him Joe Girardi's?
Joe Girardi's.
I mean, can you imagine if Arson came to Philly?
Oh,
like how could you butcher that even more?
Yeah,
Winston
Judge.
I
just at this point, obviously the Phillies are done with the big signings. That there's no more money. At least
there is more money.
No.
There's not saying more money. John Middleton is rich.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying in terms.
I don't know.
Of the big tickets out there. Like there's no Carlos Rodon in our future. There's no Aaron Judge. That stuff's not happening.
Well, they have to extend. They have to extend Nola, so that's going to be like money.
Do they?
Yes, they will.
Do they?
You don't think they trade him at some point, do you?
Here's my thought process. You talked about it a little bit ago. We've got Painter, we've got McGarry, we've got all these young arms down there, and we've now got 3 spots in the rotation locked down, including Nola. Do they, if some of these younger guys start to step up, do they look at him and say, you know what? Let's see what we can get for him, because we've talked at length about him, his fatigue level at the end of seasons.
Yeah, it's possible. I've mentioned that a time or two myself. I don't know. I think right now I say they only do that if they win I only say they do that if they win a World Series with him.
They only have like next year with him, right? So do you see one of these young kids making that big of a splash?
Andrew Painter very well could, but again, we don't know what he's capable of in the majors yet.
But then I also saw a theory, because there's like 3 young pitchers. So they were talking about like sharing time with the 2 and then the worst being traded as trade bait. That was another theory that I read.
Very well could happen. I'm just saying, when you've got a logjam, we've seen time and time again, then obviously we need to start trying to bring up people from the minors. That's one of our biggest issues as an organization, is our organizational depth. Our minor league team is so bereft of talent that we've got to capitalize on every single person we can from the minor league system in order to exist as a franchise, because we can't keep going out year after year after year and signing, Trey Turner, signing Taiwan.
No,
not my money.
Well, and look what's happening to the Dodgers right now. The Red Sox just went through it. The Cubs went through it. They signed all these guys and then gone.
Right.
And that's been a problem since, like, I mean, you go back to like Jimmy Rollins and Pat Burrell and Ryan Howard, like that homegrown group. Like that's been a problem for a long time, where like they either trade their prospects away or.
Well, and that gets to the point is, we've reached the point where with that team, there was a time where, hey, look, you know what? We're going to mortgage a future in order to produce now, in order to strike while the window's open. So we had trades for Cliff Lee. We had trades for Roy Halladay. We had, all these different moves that we made to improve the team at the cost of the farm system. Now, luckily, most of those players didn't pan out. So luckily for us, but also that's an indictment of our scouting system and of our minor league development system. But again, I mean, you had all these players, and then the players we did end up keeping didn't pan out. Dominic Brown, remember what can Brown do for you?
I was actually thinking about him today, about how he was supposed to be like the next best thing, and like he fizzled.
Well, we've got one now, Scott Kingery.
Right.
He's supposed to be Chase Utley.
Yeah, Chase Utley 2.0. Signed him that huge deal on opening day, and then he didn't even play. He didn't play in that game.
No,
Who was the kid, Tom? Who was the kid who hit the home run the first at bat? Do you remember who that was? But he was supposed to be phenomenal, and he fizzled. He was the son of somebody.
Oh, John Mayberry Jr.
Yeah.
He's another one that I think he came from. He came through a trade through Texas though, didn't he?
Yeah,
he might have, but he was young.
He was young, yeah,
he was young.
And he was supposed to be something special. I think he was always targeted as at least a starting outfielder. He was supposed to be a decent player, and again, look, the Phillies have had historically times like now, or at least the last 15 years, where the farm system just doesn't do anything, doesn't produce anything, and I think, you look at what other big market teams have done. Like the Yankees have not made a World Series since 2009. The Dodgers are struggling. The Red Sox and the Cubs, and I say struggling, they won 111 games, but for the Dodgers anyway. But the obviously the playoffs just weren't their thing, and they're starting to have to get these contracts off their books. They can't just keep signing, like you said, for the Phillies. At some point, it runs dry. And so, whereas I've heard the Dodgers are going to use, in-house move to, fill out Trey Turner, and the Cubs and the Red Sox have been doing that for a while. At some point, the Phillies are going to have to as well. And I could certainly see them making a move and trading Nola or somebody at some point. But I really hope that they put it all together this year and he gets one, because to me, and I've said this with Danielle, he's our bridge from the last time, because he actually pitched with and played with, some of those guys from the last, glory era, if you will.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I would love nothing more than, this be the year. And I really think that we're going to be, I don't want to say that the World Series is going to haunt us this year, but I think especially Nola and Wheeler at the beginning of the year, there's going to be a little rust, or not even so much rust as it's going to take them a little bit to get going. I think that they'll probably both have at least a month on the DL for just dead arm, because you think about it, Wheeler. Hopefully that doesn't happen with him, because he hasn't really shown. He showed a little bit of fatigue toward in the World Series and in the playoffs, down the stretch. But Nola that's notorious. That's what he's been known for, was his stamina dropping towards the end of the year, and we saw it in the playoffs. It took longer this year, which was great because we needed him, and we still need him. Honestly, hopefully we don't have to worry about it. Hopefully he is able to rest this offseason. He builds up his stamina again. But you think about it, they played for 2 extra months this year.
Mm-hmm.
This season.
Yeah, they really did. They played for extra time. I think too is that if the Phillies could, get a competent, and that's what I really miss about having somebody like Kyle Kendrick, where you have a competent starter that could come in. He doesn't necessarily start every fifth day, but he spot starts. He long relieves. Kyle Kendrick was an absolute godsend during the years of having Cliff Lee and having Roy Halladay and having Hamels and these other guys that were just amazing pitchers. But having somebody like Kendrick, who could very well on most teams at that era be a fourth or fifth starter, but the Phillies, for the different pitchers they had, they really didn't need him for that. So having somebody like that, I think, would be huge. Right now, I don't see it. I don't know who the Phillies have as a good spot starter, unless they take and bring in a young guy and throw him in there, or maybe that's what happens with. I hate to say, because I think honestly, I think he fits so well in the rotation, but Ranger Suarez could very well be that at some point, because he showed that he can pitch out of the bullpen very effectively.
I really liked him.
Well, what do you think about this? What do you think about the Phillies making a change to the way things are done? And we've seen in the past few years teams start to use openers as well as closers. What about a 6-man rotation?
Yeah, Yeah, they could do that. Yeah, I think the Rays were ones that tried the opener thing, didn't they? Or
The
they
Rays
threw
did
out.
it. The Phillies did it for a little bit. With what's his face? Oh, that dickhead coach that went to the Giants and won Coach of the Year.
Oh, Kapler.
Yeah, fucking Gabe Kapler.
I saw his name in the all the things today.
I fucking can't stand him. I have a shit ton of his rookie cards. I ought to just burn them.
Grease them up in coconut oil.
Baby oil? Yeah. Fucking Gabe Kapler. What a shitbag.
I remember somebody that it's somebody that I like vaguely know. Was a big fan of the Giants, and she was so excited when like they signed him, and I was sitting there like laughing, like, I hope they have lots of coconut oil.
It's like, why are you excited? So you can see him in a uniform? Like, is that what you're excited about? Because he was a shit. He sucked as a coach here, but then he goes out there and he wins Coach of the Year. So really, who's the joke on?
I think that's the Philly way, though. Like, that's another thing that's like notoriously Philly. I mean, coaches go on to do amazing things.
I mean, you got to think about it this way. You had a World Series winning coach in Joe Girardi, and for everything that we're worth here, they pretty much ran him out of town. So
yeah, that's true.
I think he was a plant. I think he was a plant to get the Yankees to win somehow, and it just like completely backfired.
And I don't know if either of you, I'm sure you guys have come across this, but you guys realize that before this season, Rob Thompson was thinking about retirement.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. You know what? I got a question. I legit thought, the nickname and then just his mannerisms and stuff. I thought he was actually from Philly. He's from Canada.
He's Canadian. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a Canadian.
That does not surprise me. Like, his mannerisms are very Canadian.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess just everything I got from him, I thought he was from Philly. I really thought he was.
The Philly Rob was just a nickname, But you know what the funny thing though, too? I realized the last name spelled differently, but I always thought of Robbie Thompson. The old second baseman for the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different spelling, but it's like every time I heard the name, it's like, wait a minute, what? Like that guy? How the heck did he become a manager?
Right.
He always seems like he's very like level-headed and like mild-mannered, whereas like the Eagles coach, you can totally tell. Like I would bet money that he like is from Philly, like because he's got that like Philly like.
Yeah, where is Nick Sirianni from? He's got to be from the Northeast.
He's from Indiana.
Oh, is he really?
Is he really?
I think so. Hold on, I'm looking it up now.
Because like he just screams like
James
Philly.
New York.
Okay,
he's
so
from New York?
So
I was going to say he seemed like he was Northeast.
He's a Northerner.
Yeah.
All right, so I was not that far off.
Oh, because he coached the Colts. He was an assistant with the Colts. That's what I was thinking.
Got it.
But yeah.
Well, so it's that New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania attitude that he's got. Like, whereas
attitude.
Yeah.
That's funny. Danielle, we were going to wrap up our baseball talk there, and then we're going to jump into another sports topic. So if you wanted to throw any, I know you said you were only going to join us for this half. You're more than welcome to stick around, but did you have anything else you wanted to add, or any particular players you'd like to see the Phillies add before the first pitch of spring training, or the first pitch of the regular season, for that matter?
Charles Barkley.
Arson Judge would be nice. I'm only joking. No, I like the thing that like made me the most scared watching like the World Series was like starting pitching, which Walker's going to help with that. But then like not having like a legit closer, but I just think that that's the way that he's managing the team. Like, because when we were in the World Series before, it was like lights out. You had lights out Lidge, it was like that. Okay, you just got to get to when he comes in, and then everything's going to be fine. You know, even if things were looking really bad, you know, for the most part, you know,
at least in 2008.
Yeah, I'm talking about the World Series.
2009 was.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about World Series, Brad Lidge, not 2009. But I just think that that's the way that he's running things. And like me and Tom talked about it, like I felt more secure with the bullpen than I did starting pitching. And that's like really bizarre to be a Phillies fan and like just be like, okay, put the bullpen in. Put the bullpen in. So like, you know, I mean, I guess that they can boister that up a little bit.
We've come a long way. We've come a long way from that. Who was it? There was a representative from Pennsylvania who did he talked about introducing something in Congress to outlaw the Phillies bullpen because they were so bad. Do you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely. Yeah. Oh gosh, who was that? I do remember that though.
I can't remember, but that made me. I still think about that and laugh.
Yeah, no, and it's been a historical thing. Phillies bullpen's usually not.
I was gonna say that's like a decades-long thing of the bullpen being horrible, you know. So I mean that's basically it. I just it's kind of like I like adding these like big names that it's gonna be like, okay, I see how they're gonna fit. And like Walker today, that was a surprise to me, but I'm kind of like, Tom can buy a jersey with his last name on it. Like we all can, but you know, I also don't want to let go of the old people either.
Right.
So,
well, you should let go of the old people. You're gonna get charged with something if you don't let the old people go.
Taijuan Walker, by the way, last wore the number 99, and he's worn it several times. So I wonder if that's what he'll wear in Philadelphia.
Yo, that would be a dope jersey for you to get.
I actually saw that. Yeah.
That would be dope.
I think we all need to get Walker jerseys.
99 jerseys.
Yeah.
I mean, I could. My grandmother's maiden name was Walker.
There you go. See?
So I get it in her honor.
There you go.
There you go. See, my mom. I'll be like, yo, I'll put a W instead of the T.
There you go.
You know, I just thought about it. It's like I'll have to like get divorced and find somebody with the last name Turner. Hey, you know what? You know what's really cute? What's really cute is we bought Harper jerseys, like legit Harper jerseys, and I dressed up like the Philly fanatic for Halloween, wearing my Harper jersey, and one of my students pointed and was like, Your jersey has my name on it, because her first name is Harper. And I was like, so yeah, and I've worn it a couple of times, or like my Harper shirt, and I'll be like, have your name on the back. I'm like, nice. converting Cardinals fans to be at least Bryce Harper fans, you know.
There you go. Well, I used to have the Carlos Ruiz jersey that said Chooch on the back.
Chooch.
And everybody people kept on doing double takes that didn't know what I was wearing. Why does your shirt say Cooch? But they called it. Do you remember in the playoffs in 2008 when we were playing Milwaukee? Oh, no, you guys might have been at the game. Because when we were playing Milwaukee, one of the announcers called him Cooch. Carlos Cooch Ruiz.
Had to be. Oh, that sounds like a Tim McCarver thing.
No, I don't. Well, it might have been, because it does sound very Tim McCarverish, but he knows. I mean, he's got to be familiar with.
It's Carlos Tim McCarver.
Yeah. I don't know, but it was on the TBS broadcast too. Because Chelsea came up, my youngest sister comes up and she's like, "Wait, we have a catcher named Cooch?"
Why are you now just telling us this? We could have been calling him Cooch for all these years.
I know.
I don't know. I don't know how that one slipped past me.
So disappointed, Bob. So disappointed.
Well, You're not the first person to be disappointed in me. You surely won't be the last.
Well, all right. Well, Danielle, thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Thank you, ma'am.
No problem. I'll see you.
All right. All right. All right. Moving
Now
on.
she's gone, we can start talking about dicks.
I know. Finally.
No.
The oh, there goes my serious thought. The second half of what we were going to record here still has to do with sports, so we're kind of keeping it sports centric. And let's just start off with baseball. You'd kind of talked about throwing some different ideas out as far as rule changes and what we'd like to see. Now, whether or not they would actually come to fruition or not is obviously, who knows. Right. But look, baseball's
not necessarily what we'd like to see, but things that they could, like, what could we, if we think about each sport, like rule changes that could be put into place that could be completely far-fetched. Like the one that we came up with was when we were talking about Rhys Hoskins, and you can only put so many players at DH, and then you said DH designated Hoskins, which led to a discussion of what if you could just, besides your pitcher, have a DH for different positions, and then that snowballed into, well, what if, like in football, they split it to offense and defense, where you had your offensive players who hit, and then you had your defensive players who went out into the field. And with that, you could have your quote-unquote Iron Men, like back in the day in football, where they would play both offense and defense. And so that kind of started the wheels turning. So what do you think? I mean, obviously, I don't think that would ever happen, but could you see? I guess never say never, because we never thought we'd see the DH in the National League.
No, look, there's been some different things that I never thought I'd see. Look, when you play ball as a kid, you never have enough people, so you always have to have ghost runners. Well, guess what they started here in the second, in the extra innings now, where they automatically throw a guy at second base, and they've done that for a couple of years now. I'm not saying it's a ghost runner, but the guy didn't get there; they just put him there.
Right.
So it's like you have these like weird things that are starting to happen to try to get the game to be more exciting. Never thought I'd see anything like that. Never thought I'd see the DH of the National League. Never thought I would see a pitch clock initiated, much like a shot clock in basketball. That's pretty crazy. There's these different things that they've tried to do to speed the game up, which, by all accounts, and I've read a couple of different lengthy research papers about this, have not done a lick in the minor leagues. It's been very negligible. So, it's like, oh yeah, I made my 3-hour game 2 hours, 59 minutes and 45 seconds. That's fantastic way to speed the game up.
Right.
But you know what? Look, I think it's cool in the sheer fact that I definitely had was carrying a different tune. But being able to have Harper all the way through the rest of the regular season when he came back in the playoffs as a DH, because otherwise he wouldn't be touching the field, was awesome. So I definitely changed my tune about that. Don't get me wrong. I still think it takes away from some of the chess of baseball, but kind of having like, a separate offense and a separate defense is very interesting. Because you have cases like where the Phillies are at now with Rhys Hoskins and quite frankly, Nick Castellanos, even though he showed that he can make some, defensive plays, quite honestly has no business playing an everyday right field. So, you have these players that, shouldn't be fielding that are strictly hitting. And, I don't know, it would be really cool to see. It really would. Again, I don't think it goes there. But maybe what about this? What about if they're able to pick just 3 positions or 3 spots? It's like, okay, for these 3 players on the field, you have a really defensive-minded center fielder, a really defensive-minded shortstop, and a really defensive-minded catcher. But you can have those three positions. I'm just making it up off the top of my head, but you can have a different offensive player for your catcher, your shortstop, and your center fielder, or whatever, So maybe not everybody, but just 2 or 3 positions.
I could see something like that. That's the thing, and I don't think that it would be a stretch to say that neither of us was a fan of the DH when it was announced for the National League. We're both. I mean, we grew up National League fans. We grew up thinking that strategic way of replacing pitchers and when do you do it, gambling, on when to pinch hit for a pitcher who's got a hot hand and that kind of stuff. So we grew up with that mentality. And we talked about this before too. Again, this is the only sport where between the two conferences or leagues or whatever, however you want to put it, each league has their own way of saying it. But between the National League and the American League, both playing the same sport, both in the same organization, but different rule sets.
Right.
And so unifying them and bringing that in and knowing that the teams are trying to make the game more exciting, make the game more accessible, make the game, just shine brighter under the lights. I know offense is something that they've tried to juice before, no pun intended, with the juiced balls. But, they try to adjust and they try to change things and they try to make the game more exciting. That's why the home run derby is even a thing, because chicks dig the long ball. So you're going to try to increase offense. Well, what better way than taking guys that are only in the majors because of their defense and letting them just play defense, and taking guys that can hit and just letting them fucking hit. And think about how that would extend careers.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's a great point. You have like the freak things like Buster Posey, who they changed an entire rule based off of an injury that he sustained. And I'm not saying that he still played for several years after that. But he could have easily tacked on a couple more. I mean, had a gnarly leg injury. Who knows? You've got players that very well could have been like I'm not going to speak ill of his defense whatsoever. Ryan Howard is a great example. Now, granted, he got himself hurt from running,
right?
But I'm sure that the toll of having to be out on the field did not help matters. There was no DH at the time, so.
And back to his injury, he had rolled his ankle and he was getting cortisone shots in his Achilles. And for anybody who knows anything about cortisone shots and the human body, when you continuously get them over and over again, it ends up making the tendons and the ligaments frail. And that's what happened. Is he put off because he didn't want to be out of the lineup. He didn't want his bat out of the lineup. So he continued to get these shots so that he could play first base every day. And then it ends up costing him. I will go on record saying that cost him his career.
Yeah.
Because without rupturing his Achilles, he, in my estimation, and I'm no expert, obviously, he could have gone on to have a productive career still.
Right, and I think we've even said that kind of on our show here before. I certainly think that him rupturing his Achilles was a kind of a perfect, look at how the Phillies trajectory would go from there on out, and it did for a decade. It just went straight to the toilet. It really did. No more playoffs until this year. And that happened in 2011. So, it's interesting. I don't know. Just kind of shooting off the cuff, I really can't think of any other baseball changes I would like to see. I could think of things that would make it more exciting, of course. But as far as like actual rule changes, like you had mentioned, with, kind of splitting it a little bit there between an offense and a defense type thing, I think that'd be interesting. So, but speaking of a split, let's move on to football. Have you thought about any interesting changes that you would like to see, or?
So with football's tough for me because I feel like they tinker with the game too much as it is, with different rules and they get ticky tack with penalties and shit. And like the referees will target every year. The NFL puts out a mandate of like, hey, we want you to concentrate on these specific rules that we changed or this or that. And then they end up calling a bunch of stupid ass penalties based
Mhm.
on that. But for the NFL, I there's a couple different rules, man. And this is just shit that I've been kicking around since I was a little kid. So I would like to see them do away with some of the illegal shifts, illegal shift penalties that they call on
Mhm.
offenses, um, and just to provide for some more offensive innovation. Um, and that's more where my rule changes for football come is more in the setup and the minutia of it because there's different things like you can't have your line uncovered. You have to have so many people up on the line of scrimmage. You have to have so many people off the line of scrimmage. You got to have, players need to come to a full stop before um, they got to come set, that kind of shit. There's certain things, obviously, your linemen shouldn't be able to like flinch and draw players off sides, defensive players off sides, get them to encourage. But there's some movement with your skill position players that you could do, and some different lineups and some different things that they could do. That would be very, very interesting and might affect the game in a positive way. Um, I mean, and this isn't so much a rule change, but I think it would be interesting too to see if you could, if they allowed two quarterbacks. If teams would start using two quarterbacks at a time. And granted, it's hard enough to find one good starting quarterback. But think about that. If you got two dudes in the backfield, right? Line it up in the shotgun formation. The ball could go to either one of them. You have no idea. And then like if they were to change the rules around laterals and forward passes a little bit, you know, they're and make it. I mean, I guess essentially I'm describing rugby
Mhm.
almost with the laterals and the forward pass and whatnot. Um, but just think about that. Like if in overtime you were allowed to throw the ball, you could just keep throwing the ball. There we go. What about in overtime of NFL games? You could just keep throwing the fucking ball.
Just kind of like endless lateraling, either with
Yeah,
any direction.
yeah, yeah. Like Music City Miracle, that shit. You know?
Yeah, you know, I do like the two quarterback thing, but I like it on the terms of having the ability to have. That's why I was like Taysom Hill. I always thought he was a fantastic player to have. Um, mainly because you could theoretically have somebody that could line up as a receiver, but then also let them line up as a quarterback. If your quarterback's even still on the field, why not? Because you have a capable person of throwing. But yeah, I don't know. I get to thinking about football stuff, and man, I really can't think of anything other than just you know, uh, certain things that I get like how fair catches obviously to keep the game safe. I get that. Um, 100%. I just sometimes I think they're almost a little too cautious. Like, hey, I can call the fair catch and there's no one around me by like 20 yards. And it's like, I don't know, like it's so boring. Or like even I don't know if the ball's, on a kickoff, kicked out of kicked out of the end zone. That happens so frequently now. It's like, oh yeah, let's just, everyone starts at the 25. That's fantastic. It kind of gets just redundant, there's got to be something else they can do with that. I don't know what. I really don't.
Right.
I don't know what they could do, but it just gets kind of mundane and boring. Um, you know, I I could think of the goofy things like, yeah, let's, make the goalposts, you know, narrower or wider. crap like that, I guess. But I really don't know with football because, like you said, they tinker with it so much. And I get it because a lot of it's for the safety of the game because we've had a lot of issues with CTE, and we don't need to, obviously put people's lives in jeopardy here. I get that. I completely understand it. But certain things, they take the smash mouth part of football completely out of it. Um, Again, I know I'm kind of double speaking there, but because it kind of sucks,
Yeah.
it's like,
and that's the thing. Like, that's a good point because I obviously 100% am behind player safety. The players, especially a lot of the older players, are going through hell because, yeah, you know what? Did they make a lot of money? They made a lot of money. They lived very well for what they did. But at the same time, that money isn't going to give them the years back that they lost because their bodies are just completely wrecked and they can't feed themselves and shit.
mhm.
That said, there's some of these penalties that I see, some of this ridiculous bullshit with. That's okay. That's another rule change I'd like to see. You should be able to challenge certain penalties. Roughing the passer. They should do, like, there's so many times. We saw it at the end of the Eagles Redskins game where Taylor Heineke drops to his knee right before he's about to get hit and then gets a roughing the passer penalty.
Yeah, which is
And then
ridiculous.
celebrates the fucking thing. Like,
Yep.
get the fuck out of here, dude. You're a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
There's certain penalties like that should be able to be reviewed. The one that kills me that I hate is running backs lowering their head to initiate contact, calling a penalty on that. Like, I get it, but you've got to be able to try to power through a tackle. You have
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. There's only so many running backs that can do that without doing that. You've and I think you're starting to see those guys start to really go by the wayside. You have like what Derrick Henry can do it. Just bulldozes through people.
Right.
Josh Allen as a quarterback can do it. There's very few people on the field that can do that without having to, get. I don't know. It's again. I don't know. There's some parts of the game that could just kind of go away with it. A lot of the parts that I'm, not typically happy about that I see a lot of, and it's weird though because again I'm going to kind of double speak on this. The pass interference sometimes is either completely missed or it's the polar opposite where it's called so poorly on the crap where it's like, oh, he looked at me the wrong way, so it's pass interference, and it's just and I'm obviously I'm saying that in jest, but you know what I'm talking about. It's
Right.
like
We
you
want to
have
watch football, not soccer.
right, exactly. It's like, are you serious? Like, come on, like make your play on the ball, and we'll leave it at that. But yeah, I understand if you don't make your play on the ball, okay, gotcha. You're holding him, you're grabbing him the wrong, whatever. You're grabbing an arm, you're doing whatever. I get it, but like, yeah, you touched him 10 yards ago, and there's your pass interference. Uh, I don't know. That part bothers me whenever I see that. I think, and I don't know that it's a rule change. I guess because that's a human judgment call. That part really bothers me about football though because it's so I don't know. It's so hit or miss how it's
Right.
called. It really is. I'd like to see some kind of change made there. I just don't know how you do it.
Right. Right.
Uh,
So
um, yeah, let's
let's
move
go
on.
on to hockey.
Yeah, you're going to probably speak on this a lot more than I am because I really don't have anything for hockey.
So this is going to be. I want to regress on this one. Okay. I cannot fucking stand that we have games decided by a fucking skills competition. There
not a fan
should
of
not
not a fan of
be.
the shootout.
Fuck the shootout and its stupid fucking ass.
Hey, that's how the Philadelphia Union lost their fucking title.
Right, which is bullshit too. Now, again, not a soccer fan, but Philly fan, and I wanted them to win. And the fact that they lost in a fucking shootout burns my ass. The fact that they let a fucking championship game be decided by a fucking shootout. If it's a shootout because there's a penalty, if it's a penalty kick, Okay. Again, if it's a penalty shot, okay, cool. To have a fucking game that actually matters end in a fucking shootout will never not bug the shit out of me.
Now, I have a question for you on that, and this is just my very limited knowledge of really honestly following this. I mean, follow the Flyers here and there. Obviously, not so much this year, but but my understanding was that was put in for an excitement reason, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you as like a hardcore Flyers and hockey fan, have you always hated that through
Yes.
and through? Okay.
Yeah. See, now here's the thing. Do ties suck? Yes, absolutely. They're fucking stupid. I hate ties. But I will 100 out of 100 times take a tie over my team losing because of a skills competition. You play 60 or I'm sorry, you play 60 minutes of hockey plus the overtime period, the 5-minute overtime period, just to lose a game because of a skills competition. Dude, no. No. It's a
Okay.
team sport.
So much like football, how we talk about player safety, not only for the excitement factor, do you believe that was put in for safety and just people being flat out winded? So for more
No.
safety.
No. Nope. Because you played a 5-minute overtime period, and if it ended in a tie after 5 minutes, the game was over.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason that they don't do a shootout in the playoffs. Because during the playoffs, it reverts back to the old rules. Not 5-minute overtime period. It reverts to a full period. And it's sudden death. Whoever scores first wins. And that's how it is in the regular season. It's the 3 periods. You play a 5-minute overtime period, and then if nobody scores, you do the shooting,
Right.
The shooting shootout.
So you could theoretically have a half decent goalie, and then just a bunch of shooters on your team, and just hope that you end in a tie, and then, you know what? I got these guys. No big deal.
Right. And that's the thing. Like the Flyers have a goalie who is look. If you're looking at bright spots on this team this year, Carter Hart has stood on his head at times to keep them in games and to steal some games. And he has looked. I was worried about him last year. I thought that he had regressed, and I was very concerned about him in the past couple of years. He's not the problem with this team. Everything else is the problem with this team. Carter Hart is not the problem with this team. But you can't just put it on him though. It's a team effort. And when the team is falling apart around him, and if they get to overtime and it's all that's standing between a win and a loss, he might stop 4 out of the or 2 out of the 3 first shots. But if his teammates can't score a goal on the other goalie, then he gets the loss. He shoulders that, and then you got to wonder what it does to a young goalie's confidence.
Yeah, yeah. No, what I again, my limited knowledge of hockey, especially rule changes, the whole icing thing to me always cracked me up. But the more I'd kind of learned over the years, because I didn't really understand that when I was a kid, right? And then the more I've learned, and obviously the rule changed with that as time went on. And then I got to thinking about what would I like to see, as we were kind of spitballing this idea back and forth. Hockey to me, and again, this is why I'm a big baseball and a big football fan ahead of hockey, is as a numbers thing for me. It's still a lot like soccer. Hockey's more exciting, don't get me wrong, but where you still have the potential to have like a crazy game that ends in 1-0. And it just bothers me. I don't know why. It just
No,
maybe
I
it's
get it.
it's a numbers thing, it's
I sat through a 0-0 tie
right.
in person. It sucked.
And I've been to plenty of baseball games where they were 1-0, 2-0, whatever, low scoring. But there's a difference in watching a pitcher's duel. I don't know, for me, just a big baseball fan. It's just different. I think, and this will kind of lead into what I would think about for NBA. I would love like a little window where a goal counted for 2. Like, just to give a little time frame in there, like a little 30-second thing, like, hey, this goal counts for 2 during this
multi-puck.
Yeah, exactly. Like just something a little like arcadish.
Like a hot spot.
Yeah, like that's what I was gonna talk about for basketball. Man, like throw a sticker or some magnet or whatever on the court, like with 2 minutes left in the game, that's worth like 5 points. And it could be in different spots. It could be, a jump shot from 18 feet. It could be a 3 that's now worth 6. It could be whatever. Man, talk about like how you could make the game change. I mean,
so it's funny you mentioned that. There were 2 things that I thought for basketball, and one of them was that where what you would do is, how they had the wood floors, and they would have to redo. Well, actually, I guess not. They wouldn't have to redo it too much because we've got the technology now. But I guess, make the wood a little bit thicker so that you could put some kind of LED display underneath it with a clear thing, but somehow match the texture with the court, because you don't want it to. Number one, you don't want the screen to break. Number two, you don't want the players that slip on it to have the ball bounce off of it and have it bounce differently. But yeah, you do that towards in the last minute or whatever of each quarter, you light up the spots, and if you hit from that spot, then it's a different point total. The other thing I was thinking, and I don't know if you would do this. I don't know if you do this all game or just in like the last. If you allow it all game and then cut it off for the last 2 minutes, or if you don't allow it all game and turn it on for the last 2 minutes, but dunking. Take dunking out.
Ooh.
Or, and I don't know why I didn't think of this till now. For the last minute of each quarter or the last minute of each half, you don't have to dribble.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Wasn't that like Bill Laimbeer's combat basketball? Can you like run with it?
I don't know. I always wanted to play that because I saw it on Nintendo Power and I wanted to play it.
I could be wrong. I don't know. I just remember being
that sounds about right.
It's being completely different. I don't know. Yeah, I like the not dribbling thing. That's kind of cool. But hell, most of them don't do it anyway. No, I do love the hotspot idea. That's actually what I thought of. That was the first thing I thought of. So I was like, it can't be like NBA Jam where they set the ball on fire. That won't work.
I mean, why not?
I mean, I guess it could.
Yeah, but I guess you're going to get lawsuits if you.
Yeah, these are actual human beings
or something.
Video game, characters. So
can they make their shoes change color at least?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. Can we just throw turbos out on the court and then make it run faster?
Yeah.
Now, and I've said it more than once here, and I know you have too. I'm not a fan of the NBA at all, but I do like college basketball for the school I went to, just because at least it's still somewhat exciting because they still play defense. But the hotspot idea is fantastic. I think I would like to see, maybe things like a shortened shot clock, where I know it's pretty quick anyway, but maybe in the last minute of each half or the last 2 minutes of each half, let's just shave some time off the shot clock and make them make a move. Like you have to shoot. Just do something, quicker instead of especially when it comes down to like the end of a half where, they're just holding on to the ball. They've got 20 seconds left or whatever. You're going to win. It's like, let's shave it down. Let's make them take a shot,
Right.
Because it's like,
I agree with that. What do you do with key violations and offsides? Do we get rid of them at the end of the half too?
I would love to get rid of key violations. I think that'd be awesome. Let them have at it. I don't know. The key violation stuff is, I've never really cared for it, honestly, in the game itself. It's like, yeah, you only spend so much time down there. And what's funny, because I watched enough baseball games where the person that's usually making that violation is the last person that's even looked at, Right. So, because they're just sitting there in la la land. I don't know. It's funny. Or do something with free throws. Maybe make them worth more points. Maybe make them double value.
There you
go. I don't know. It's
upon, it could be a multiplier depending upon how many fouls.
Yeah, exactly. There's just something with it. I don't know. I honestly think of all these ideas that we've had here, the hotspot idea is the only one that could honestly actually happen.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Now, one of the things though that now that I'm thinking about it, I really like the multiplying the shots, or not the shots, but the points based on the how many team fouls you have. Think about how much that would have changed things. Like, well, I know you're not a huge fan, but I know you had to have heard of like the hack a Shack.
Oh yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that, where you send. So think about that, where like Joel Embiid faced that for a while. When he started out, was people were just beating the shit out of him, making him go to the free throw line and shoot. So imagine what happens if you can't do that, because you can't risk it. So because you foul him so many times, and then you get up there, and then he's shooting a 9-point shot.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. However you want to put the weight on it as far as the point value, but yeah, it really is a good idea, for that sheer fact, because I've watched so many games, particularly in the NBA too, where they do that. Like, it's nothing but foul shots at the end of the game. It's all they're doing is go to the free throw line, and it's like taking forever because there's so many team fouls. It's like, because they keep doing the same thing. It's like they're taking their hacks to the big guy who's just trying to throw the layup in or whatever, because that's all he's going to do. Or try to dunk it, and they're just gonna do whatever they can to him. I don't know. I just think it's that'd be fun. I think that adds another element of, at least, hey, you might want to watch how you're playing the game to it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Play a clean game.
Yeah, exactly. So, but
not like, or we could just mutate everybody and just make all the mutant league sports.
Yeah, I thought about that. when we were talking about football. Yeah, I would like to change by just giving the quarterback dynamite a couple times a half.
Yeah. Throw some chainsaws onto the ice. Let the players take care of it.
That's right. It's no more penalty box stuff. We're just gonna handle this on the ice.
Yeah. Yeah. Get that giant slug to be the Zamboni.
Yeah. Lose a couple limbs in the process and be done with it.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. Any more sports changes?
I kind of thought you were just gonna kill it right there.